with Pastor Jay, and I have Councilwoman Belinda Thomas, Joyful Farms in the house. So we're gonna have a good time. We're
Woohoo.
gonna talk about that. She's actually my farming mentor. May talk a little bit about that, but don't go anywhere. You're listening today with Pastor Jay. Ready?
You are now tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio, where we discuss inspiring and informative news. And now here's your host, Pastor Geraldine Denny.
Good morning. Good morning. Wake up. Good morning, man. You know what I need? I need a rooster in the background because we're gonna be talking about farming today. And I know Mark, my producer, is going. Yeah, I'm already on it. He's gonna get me a rooster eventually. But we're talking about something very fundamental: the land, stewardship, and the joy of farming. Whether you're a seasoned farmer, a homesteader, or someone simply longing to reconnect with God's creation, this conversation is for you. If you're like me, I'm a new and beginning farmer. And my guest today is actually my farming mentor, Belinda Thomas. She's my farming coach, and she has a heart behind Joyful Farms. She helps individuals and families rediscover the blessing of working the land God's way. So, Belinda, I want to say welcome to today.
Thank you for having me.
You're the most glamorous farmer I know. I got to say that. Look, she got the hat on. I just saw her last week, and she had this beautiful blue hat on. She was getting herself some chicken feed today, and I had to call her and go, Belinda, we're on the air. Look at her with the red hat on. She looking good. For those that are watching me by social media, you can see that. But those that are hearing me on the radio, you're gonna want to go see Miss Belinda in her red. But Belinda, tell us your story. How did your journey into farming begin?
Well, I'm going to give you the short version, but I became a widow at 30 years old, and I'm originally from the city, from Michigan, Detroit. And I ended up moving to Alabama. And so when I became a widow at 30, I wanted to move to the country. So I thought to get my children away from the violence of the city. And I bought the land right across from a farmer. And he introduced himself and told me I need to farm the land, and I was so offended. But he didn't give up on me, and he kept on. And of course, I didn't listen to him when he first told me. But it took 30 years later, and had the land. And one day I asked somebody, "Hey, I got this land. What should I do with it?" And they said farming, the magic word. And by this time it clicked. I was older, more settled, and started researching and getting into it and finding out that we didn't have new and beginning farmers, especially females, especially African Americans. And so that inspired me to be the change. And so in order to be the change, I had to be the change. And so I started on the journey, and then wanted to open it up to others. And here we are today with Joyful Farms. And so that's what I do, and that's where the passion and drive come from. Also, with God's anointing and giving me the vision and insight to be this leader in this wheelhouse.
When you talk about the joy of farming, what does that mean to you personally? Because when I think about farming, now I'm on this journey. Thank God you're my farming mentor. But I am thinking about, I don't know how I'm going to be as glamorous as you farming, but when you talk about joy, I'm trying to figure, I love putting my hands in dirt. I'm good at that part, but farming seems like it's hard. Where do you get your joy from?
I get my joy from the connection that being with in God's creation, and taking one seed and being able to feed many people. And the first time that I actually worked the land and planted, um my harvest came, and I was so excited that I had did this. And I ended up feeding the whole neighborhood, like, just come and get it, because that was the joy of watching people come and eat from the fruits of my labor, and that I could feed so many people. And that was my joy.
Farming is definitely hard work. What keeps your joy rooted even through those challenges? Because I can imagine with the weather, with the soil, there are some challenges. What keeps your joy rooted?
And I like that you said that, because one of my first year of farming, we had unseasonable weather, and I lost my crops. And but it didn't that made me continue, because having that loss, I got educated. You can't control the weather, but I got educated and I got more determined to be successful. But it would still goes back to the joy of being able to serve others. And it is the greatest capacity that you can serve someone in. And if you think about what did Jesus do before he departed? He had the Last Supper. He convened over a meal. And so when you think about food, you have to think about Christ. You have to think about God and all his awesomeness, because just feeding his people is that's the joy.
Mm. How does work in the land shape your relationship to God? I mean, because I can imagine just you got to be praying over that stuff, but how does it shape your relationship
W-
with God?
Well, that is another thing too, because you know you working with weather and you can't control it. You every time you plant a seed, you praying and you praying and asking God to give you the increase. And so just having that connection, that spiritual oneness with the earth and with God and his creation, it makes you strong. You don't even know that you develop in this relationship, and it just cleans you. Working in that soil does so much for you, and it's so healthy. And so you get all of these benefits without even knowing it. And then the hard work is what makes you embrace the reward.
Mm. You know, you talk about a practical skill and you also tied in a spiritual one and you're tied with the land. When you meet people that say they want to farm, what's the most common misconceptions I think people have about farming the land?
One, they think you got to have a lot of land.
That's
Two,
a good one. That's true.
two, you got to have a tractor. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Three, you got to have overalls,
All right. So you don't have to have overalls. You don't need a lot of land and
and
you
you
don't
don't
need
need
a
it,
tractor to be a farmer.
and you can be disabled.
And you can
So,
be disabled. Okay.
mhm.
All right, guys, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk about some of that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. We are speaking with my farming mentor, Belinda Thomas from Alabama. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You are listening to Today with Pastor Jay.
I love it.
All right, you ready? We'll go back in. Welcome back. Welcome back. You are listening to Today with Pastor Jay, and I have my farming mentor, my coach on. Did you give me that rooster? Because, all right, so we talked before the break, we talked about some of the common misconceptions. Yeah, everybody think you got to have a rooster to have a farm too, but you don't have to have a rooster.
No,
I love it. I love it. So you don't have to have a lot of land. You don't have to have a tractor.
no.
And what was the other thing that we said we didn't have to have? I forgot. Whatever it is, you don't have to have it. You don't have to have any of those
You
things.
can be disabled.
And you could be disabled. A lot of people don't know you could be a farmer
That's
right
correct.
in your own backyard.
Right.
Now, I'm that's important because a lot of times people go, "Oh, we can't do that." But Belinda, let's walk through some of the services that you provide through Joyful Farms.
Well, one of the things that we help new and beginning farmers, so people who want to become new and beginning farmers, to go through those process through the USDA, to get you in those systems and to get you into these programs that is very difficult when you're going into these offices, especially if you don't know. And so we help with that. We will help you with the grants, the loans, and other benefits that is available to you that you wouldn't actually know because you're new to this. And being a most of the time when it comes to farming, it's more generational. So to be a first generation farmer, that's a really, really big deal. And you just really don't get to help being a first generation farmer, because most of the time farming is inherited, it's passed down. So being first generation, we help through that process.
So speaking of processes, let me tell you what happened when I went to go and get register my farm and get my farming number. So of course I had Councilwoman Belinda in my ear, had on Bluetooth, and she told me before you go in the office, I'm not gonna tell you what office I went to, but you're gonna have some issues. You're gonna have some problems. So I said, okay. Now she prepped me enough. So there's the forms you got to fill out. You got to do all of that. And you go in there and you're all excited. I'm going to be a farmer. La, 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 la. And you go in there, you put these forms on the table, and they look at you and go, oh, yeah, no, mm-mm. No, this is what they did to me. Oh no, come back. So I get in the car and Belinda go, "What you doing? You gotta go back in there." This is what she said. No, they need to register you today as a farmer, and you go back in there. So I got emboldened. I went back in there. I said, she only had to tell me one time, and they was spouting off all kinds of stuff, and I was telling them, no, I'm gonna be registered to be a farmer. I got my paperwork. I got everything together, and my farming mentor told me X, Y, and Z. This the form I need. It's filled out properly, and I'm not leaving here until I'm registered as a farmer.
But most
And
importantly, don't forget
mm-hmm,
this part, Pastor
mm-hmm.
Jay. They said, "How did you find out?"
That is true. That was the other thing. They said, how did you find out? How did you know you could become a farmer? Who told you? They were so surprised that I was registering as a farmer. And then there's a whole nother system. We'll talk about that probably another time. But Belinda was walking me through the forms. She informed me on everything that I needed, and she opened my eyes to the grant money and to the loans that are available for new and beginning farmers. So everyone said, "Oh, I want to be a farmer. I'll go fill out the paperwork." Mm-mm. They said, "How did you find out? Who told you?" And then they were really looking behind me, wanted to see if there was somebody else there with me. But they gave me a hard time, gave me a hard time in the office, did not want to register me, and pretty much was moving me on my way. Then there was another instance where they told me I had to come back. And I said, well, you need to write down that I have to come back. And Belinda's in my ear. She's going, you're supposed to have a receipt of service. Every time you go into the USDA office, they're supposed to give you a receipt of service. And I'm going, yeah, okay, okay. Make a long story short, they were ushering me out with whatever little bit of paperwork they get. And I said, where's my receipt of service? And they looked at me. What do you know about a receipt of service? So having a farming mentor, a farming coach is extremely important because they
Important.
will navigate you through all the paperwork and everything that you're going to need. You know, how do you help people who feel overwhelmed or intimidated by farming to get started? Because it is an overwhelming thing.
It is. And a lot of people don't know that a lot of times you go in these offices, I actually know more than what they do in the offices. And what they don't know, they're not going to tell you they don't know, but they're going to misinform you like they know. And they tell you things so long that they believe their own misinformation. so
That's true.
so so a lot of people don't know that. And to really answer your question about being overwhelmed, I think that it's just it makes you persistent and determined. And that's how you get over being overwhelmed is I'm not gonna give up. I'm entitled to this. I am an American citizen, and that is the constitutional law. And if people don't know, it is your constitutional law. Nobody can stop you from producing your own food. That's the Constitution.
You know, I'm glad you said that because most people don't know that. And last week, you and I both were with RFK Jr., Bobby Kennedy from Maha, and he talked about being healthy. And you're growing organic. You talk about your collard greens, which, by the way, I want my collard greens next time I see you. But organic farming and healthy farming. And right now, we need to grow our own food. Can you share a story of someone whose life has been changed through your coaching, your mentoring, or your training, other than
Well,
mine?
Well, that list is pretty extensive, but I can say I will say this. I'll give a personal testimony. My minister's wife, I got her into farming, and right now today she has what's called a high tunnel house, which is we. It's a very sophisticated unit that we use, and she started her own farm in her backyard out of this house. And what she does with her produce, she goes around and give all of the sick and the shut in and nursing home her produce that she grows. And
Mm.
this is her ministry. And she found herself, she discovered herself. And so I like to think that that is one of the to me one of my success stories, because she was always in the shadows of her husband, being a minister. She was seeking her own identity and her own passion and her own land. And this is farming gave it to her.
Mm, mm. And you know, it's true. It's good to have something like that. Why is it important right now? for people to reconnect with the land, whether it's culturally or spiritually? Why do you think that's important?
Because that's where we come from. And so if we don't take care of where we come from, it can't take care of us. And one of the things that you're going to learn about nature and our connection, I tell people, on my farm we have a bee farm, and the bees have no food.
Mm,
And the bees go so far; they can go up to 2 or 3 miles trying to find food. And if you look at people's houses today and they land, they have all these yards, but you very seldom see pretty flowers planted. You don't see things planted. So it's a sign that if the bees not eating, we're not eating, because the
mm.
bees pollinate for us. And so if we don't take a conscious look at what we're doing to this land, this is what sustains us. If we don't take care of it, we won't be sustained, and we won't have nothing to leave to our future.
Let's talk about the Black community for a minute, because it's a challenge to talk to African Americans about farming. I ain't farming.
Mm.
Jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton. You've got me
Yes.
confused with someone else. And that is a stigma that you have had. It's a challenge, I should say, that you've had to help other people get over. So, why do you think that is, and what does that come from?
Well, that comes from our history. And so we don't when it comes to farming in our history, it brings to mind to people that we're free. We're not slaves. But we are free, but our food system is not. Our what we choosing to put in our bodies, we are still a slave to a system. And true freedom is controlling what you put in your body. And so that is one of the hardest stigmas I have about farming. And people say it's hard work, but you can work 80 hours for someone and give your whole soul to a company, but you can't get a good meal.
Mm,
So
mm,
it's how we have to reprogram that, and we have to take people back to the beginning. We need to go back to Eden. God designed us to be self-sufficient. He did not
mm-hmm,
design us, especially when it comes to food. He did not design us to have to depend on a system. And so he put everything that we need to make us whole, complete, and one is in the earth. We come from the earth, and the earth can sustain us.
I love how you say that. There's a program that you do with young kids in your area, Green Eggs, No Ham. Let's talk about that real quick before we take a break. Go ahead. Tell
Okay,
us
so
about the Green Eggs, No Ham.
green eggs, no ham. So every Dr. Seuss week, we go around to the school and we prepare fresh eggs from off the farm and collard greens, and we'll make like a souffle. And we have someone reading green eggs and ham, and our version is green eggs and no ham. And we serve the children lunch, and it's green eggs and no ham, and they love it because it's fresh and it's all natural. And we talk about the chicken, and we talk about where these greens come from, and we teach the young people about farming. So that's green
Mm,
eggs, no ham.
Green Eggs, No Ham. All right, we got to take another break. Don't go anywhere, guys. Don't touch that dial. You are listening to Today with Pastor Jay. All right, let's go back in. I don't know what happened. Let's do it again because my camera went out. All right, let's try that one more time. You ready? I want to give a thank you and a shout out to Church on the Rock, Great Eagle Strategies, Judah One Aviation, and Website Mate. Thank you so very much, and Geraldine Ministries for sponsoring Today with Pastor Jay. And I'm excited because I have my dear friend, Belinda Thomas, Councilwoman Belinda Thomas out of Alabama. She is my farming mentor. I call her my coach. She's the one I go to when I'm trying to figure this out. So before the break, you was talking about these high tunnel houses. I'm gonna have some of those.
Yes,
That's
you
what I'm
will.
working on right now. Get my high tunnel houses, and I may do some bees down the road. But right now,
it's so much. It's so much. You never know. I say
I
this.
I
You
keep saying no, but you never know.
you never
Yeah.
know. And with farming, you transition so much. You never be. And that's the beauty of it. You never get bored because there's so much diversity. And you might listen. You might be a mushroom farmer. You
You know,
never.
I was thinking about some mushrooms. You
Yeah,
laughing if you want to, but I was like, I should farm
yeah,
some. I love mushrooms.
yes.
I should farm some
Yes.
mushrooms.
So and all of those things you could do. I mean, I started out wanting to be a food. I just wanted to do produce.
Hmm.
Now I have honey. Now I have rabbits coming to the farm, and now I have goats coming to the farm. And so it's just so much diversity in it, and you're not limited to one thing. You don't know where God gonna lead you when he talk about agriculture, because it's a big umbrella. And so you really, I don't class myself in, I don't box myself in.
Well, this is my glamorous farmer. Every time I see her, I just saw last week, like I said, she had on this beautiful blue hat, had these cowboy boots on. Now she's got this red glamorous hat on. As cold as I don't know what it is in Alabama, and you still out there getting yourself some chicken feed, which is great. So, how does what encouragement would you give to families who want to grow their own food but don't know where to begin? I tell you where to go. Joyful
Joyful
Farms, but
Farms.
yeah,
I say
Joyful.
reach out to Joyful Farms and let us. And I don't care what state you in. I don't care what region you in.
Mm-hmm.
We can help you. I'm not limited to no one area. Even though we're here in Alabama, we do host farm tours, which you can come and see. I would love for people to see the high tunnel houses that we grow in. It's a state of the art house. It's not like what you used to. When we say high tunnel, the farming, that's the farming language for greenhouse, but it's more sophisticated than a greenhouse. So but that kind of give you an idea of the growing system that we use. And Joyful Farms is in an urban city, and one house service three grocery stores. So I service grocery stores, I service communities, I service schools, I service daycares, I service a lot just in out of these systems. So I can pretty much feed whomever I choose to feed with those houses. And it's not massive acres of land. So it's not about the size, it's about what you produce.
And of course, when you contact Belinda about your farm, let her know that Pastor Jay sent you, so that way she'll put you on the good track. Not that there's a bad track, but there's
You,
an extra favor track. I'm gonna
that's
say.
right. That's
Am I
right.
telling the truth?
You're
Yeah,
telling the truth.
you get a
You're
little
telling the
bit of
truth.
favor when you tell her that Pastor Jay sent
What
you.
if anybody knows Pastor J, it's gonna be right, it's gonna be efficient, and she goes 100%. And she's gonna probably be able to lead you even further than I can, because that's just the spirit that she works with.
Oh, I appreciate. She's coaching me to be a farming mentor. So
That's
eventually we're
right.
gonna get there. So, how does farming cultivate? Would you say patience, trust, and gratitude? Because I can imagine sometimes you want that stuff to be right here, right now,
Well,
and you got to do it.
I will say this. Once you start producing your own food and you actually see what it takes to produce food, you're gonna have a different appreciation for it. You're
Mhm.
gonna frown when you see people not respecting it. And the wastefulness that you're not gonna want to waste anything, because you know it took so much for you to get that seed to mature, then you had to harvest it, then you had to get it out. So you have a different respect for food. Food becomes your best friend.
And it's I'm glad you mentioned that because last week when we were together in DC, we were talking about broccoli, how long it takes to grow broccoli, and how long it takes to think. And I never thought about that. I never knew any of that. Well, the reason why the price is like this because it takes forever for this to cultivate. I'm like, who knew? But you don't waste a thing.
No, we don't waste anything. And then whatever we don't use, I guarantee you my chicken's gonna eat it, or we're gonna have it for the compost. So we don't waste anything. And I'll give you a little insight or something. So people that loves like just say the butter beans, or the butter beans, for instance. That is one of the hardest beans because they grow low and you got to get down low to harvest them. So it's things like that that you never
Mm,
think about. Um, asparagus. Asparagus, people love asparagus, but
I do.
it takes asparagus 3 years to mature. But now
What?
once they mature, yes, and then you have a continual harvest, but you got to wait 3 years for that to mature. So all of these things that you think, Brussels sprouts is another one. So it's once it take a long time for them to grow, and they're very hard to grow too. And once you get one harvest, and that's it. So
Mm.
it's a lot that goes
I'm
into
taking
what.
butter beans off my list. No more butter beans. I'm not going down low. Low, low, low. No, no. Low means no on my end.
Even your
No.
cabbage. When cabbage, it takes a long time to grow, and once you
Mm-hmm.
harvest, you get one harvest. So that's why cabbages are expensive, and that's why you don't see, if you go in the stores now, which you're not getting real food, but even so, the cabbage be little, and you don't see the green leaves on them anymore. So everything is different when you start producing real food and knowing what real food is.
Well, I want to thank you so very much for coming
Thanks
on the
for
show. I'm
having me,
going to have you back and we're going to do an update
and I'm
because
excited.
I'm a new and beginning farmer and I'm going to bring Belinda here to Flagler County. She's going to come to Flagler County. We're going to have this big event, get everybody to talk about, so we're going to talk about farms, how you can farm, what you need, all this other kind of stuff because she's been guiding me for the past year. And I'm excited because I'm going to have me a high tunnel house. I'm going to have two, not one, but
Yeah,
two.
she's gonna have two.
I'm gonna have two,
You
and
might
you're gonna
have
be like,
three.
I might have to. Okay, I might have three. So there we go. If she said it, I'm gonna have three. So reach out to Belinda. Let her know that Pastor Jay called you, or just call me. You can call me. It
Yes,
doesn't
come
matter.
on,
Call
yes.
me. Reach out to me. Message me on social media, and I will connect you with Belinda because there's some extra favor when it comes to that. God bless you, Belinda. I want to
Can
thank
I
you
say
so
one
very.
thing before we
You
get
can.
off?
Yes, you
From
can say whatever
from
you
the
want to
age
say.
it's from 10 to whatever. You could be a farmer, and the USDA will help you from the age of 10 on up, and the USDA will help you. And they have programs
You
so
hear
that you
that?
can be your
They have
own
they
farm
have programs and they have grant
funding.
money. Then
Yes,
they have funding and they have
starting at the age of 10.
loans starting at the age of 10 years old. Which real quick, we're almost out of time, but last week I was having a difficulty making sure they lost my paperwork. Mhm. Yeah. And there was a challenge with me getting things done. It just so happened last week I was at the USDA in Washington, D.C., and I was speaking with my mentor. She was there. And of course, Dr. Alveda King was there. She works with the USDA. And I said, I'm having a problem. My cutoff is today because I needed to get all my paperwork in so I can get funding for my high tunnel house. And do you know the USDA was so amazing? They were so incredible. They started making phone calls. They started doing all that. Next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call back here from Florida going, you in DC talking about you not getting help. I was like, well, you didn't help me. But make a long story short, everything went well. And as Belinda mentioned, it is your constitutional right for you to grow your own food. So make sure you reach out. Even if you're at home, you want to do it in pots. I was in Dr. Alveda King's house. She has something in her basement. She has something
Yes.
in her house, like some UV thing going on. I got to get me
Well, now
one of.
that's called. Wait. We
What
have
is
to
it
be.
called?
Well, that's hydroponics. So,
Oh,
I
hydroponics.
I'm her mentor, so I got to make sure that and yours too. So you got to use the terminology. That's hydroponics. So,
Hydroponics.
and you
She
will
got
be doing hydroponics as well.
Yeah, she got me all hooked up. So thank you, Belinda, for Joyful Farms. All right, guys. Today we've been reminded that farming isn't just about food; it's about faith, it's about stewardship, and trusting God's provision. So I leave you with this today. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow's not promised. What are you going to do today? Maybe today you plant a seed, literally or spiritually. Maybe today you steward what God has already placed in your hands. Hey, reach out to Joyful Farms. Call me. Maybe you want to farm. Don't worry about it. You can do it. Until next time, I'm Pastor Jay, and this has been Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio. God bless you.
I love your show.
Can you hear me? That was fun. I'm
It
going to keep the
was.
stream for a minute. I can't hear you, though.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. So, little known fact that people going to say, Pastor Jay farming? I'm
Oh yeah,
farming.
it's gonna be
It's
epic.
going to it's gonna be
You
epic.
you're
I'm
gonna
getting me
be
some pink cowboy boots.
well, I'm gonna tell you, when you
What?
start working that soil, you're gonna want something that's gonna support you, and
They're
so
going to
oh,
be
I
cute. Support pink
yeah,
boots.
well, I wear them when I'm out, but now my farm boots that I work in, you
Uh
see
huh.
me on the farm, or you be like, okay, she's a real she, yeah,
You a real farmer. You a
yeah,
real farmer
so
no matter
yeah,
what.
yeah, that's it. So
All right.
I love your show. I mean, it's absolutely. So how can I have like the recording of this right here? I'd like
Okay,
to
well,
share
just so you
this.
know, all of this is live right now. So you'd be able to find it on any of my social media platforms, whether it's on X, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. And then this is going to air in a few Sundays, and I'll let you know where the recorded version is going to